Scott, thank you so much for taking the time to spend a little time with me, and I really do appreciate it. I know you're busy and you've got a lot of things going on. I'm going to start with some scripture before we hop in and start talking. This comes from Ephesians chapter 2, verse 4. It says, "But God, being rich in mercy because of the great love in which he loved us, even when we were dead in our trespasses, made us alive together with Christ. By grace you have been saved." Scott, thanks for joining me today. I want to hop into some things right away. Not to be controversial at all, but hop into some history of baseball. A lot of people just think that Cobb County is this haven of great baseball, but you really got to go back to the history of how we got here. And there are a lot of key players in the past that have built up baseball in Cobb County in general, whether it's high school, travel baseball, and then obviously that filters into college. But I want to go back and I want to ask just a few things. Where did you go to high school? And then when did you graduate? Next steps from there? And where did you play in the summertime?
Yeah. Well, first of all, thanks so much for having me.
Yeah.
I've been watching all your podcasts. It's great to finally come to the undisclosed bunker in West Cobb.
Bunker, yeah.
Bunker in the undisclosed location. But so I graduated from Lassiter High School in 1995. And as you've talked about before, that was the epic battle. And I often tell people all the time, there's in all the games and throughout my entire baseball career, I don't specifically remember a lot of results of individual games, but that's definitely one that it's weird how that game is just a regular season game, but people still talk about it.
Yeah.
But so I graduated from Lassiter in 1995. Was fortunate enough to get a scholarship to go to play at Georgia Tech. So I played at Georgia Tech as a two-way player in 96, 97, 98.
Which is unheard of now.
Yeah, it was
pretty amazing.
It was fun. And then I got drafted after my junior year as a pitcher by the St. Louis Cardinals. And so I went and spent 5 years in the Cardinals organization. And I ran out of bullets, as they say. I actually had a partial ligament tear.
Oh.
Yeah, and that's and back then they hadn't perfected the Tommy John surgery quite like they have today. So I didn't totally blow it out. So the doctor said, you know what, try to rehab it, give it. So I basically sat in the stands for almost an entire season doing radar gun. And that's kind of where I really learnred, the game. I'd take kind of copious notes, and my manager at the time would love it. He'd come up to me. He's like, "Man, you ought to be a scout." And I was like, I don't know about that. But so anyways, I ran out of bullets, as they say, and I got released the following spring training. And then I got into the business world. So I did commercial real estate for 10 years, and now I've been doing residential realtor, selling houses here in Metro Atlanta for the last 11 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
Goodness.
And
where do you work right now?
I work for a company called Dorsey Austin Realtors.
Okay.
So I've been with them ever since I switched over to the residential world, and we do stuff all over Metro Atlanta, and I help buyers and sellers, and I loved it. So I did commercial for 10 years, and it took me 10 years, I guess, to figure out that. I woke up one day and I was like, you know what? I don't really care about dock-high doors and clear height ceilings. And, I was like, oh, that doesn't excite me. So I was like, I grew up here in Atlanta. I knew some people in the residential world. And so I made the switch, and I love it. It's a lot more fast paced. The contracts are easier to navigate. Things happen faster. And I would love going in all the different parts of town. I actually got a listing right down the road here that
Really?
we already got under contract. Yeah.
Wow.
Right there at Lost Mountain.
Man, so how's real estate right now? How does it look? How's it going?
It's very hyper local, I would say,
Okay.
meaning so it's weird. So there's neighborhoods, for example, I live in Smyrna, and there's neighborhoods where historically things will go under contract in 2 seconds that have been sitting there. But then you still hear stories about in town where the $1 million to $2 million price point, things are multiple offers and flying off the shelf. So it's almost neighborhood to neighborhood.
Yeah.
And it's so overall, I'd say it's kind of switched back towards the buyers right now have a little more leverage in general, but it just depends on the area and what, where you're at.
Okay. Well, thank you for that update. Yeah. I'm sure some people will appreciate that. Let's back up for just a second. Okay. When did you get to Lassiter High School? And who were some of the guys on your team and who was the coach at Lassiter?
So I got there in 94. So up until that point, I'd gone to a private school and ran into some issues over there. So I was the original transfer portal. People don't realize that back then.
That's great.
We bought a house out by Lassiter, and my dad and I lived there. We were never there, but we lived there. So anyways, I got to Lassiter in 94.
Yeah.
And it was weird because like the summer before I got to Lassiter, so I guess the summer of 93, that was when I played for Gary Baldwin. And his son Kevin at the time was going to be a senior at Lassiter. And so I went over there to Lassiter, and the head coach was Mickey McMurtry, who I still talk to this day. And he is one of the classics. But so on that 94 team, and we were talking about, the players in Cobb and how we have this reputation. And I was telling you earlier that a lot of people don't realize, they hear Lassiter and they think, oh my God, this giant of baseball, and they've been good forever. Well, 1994, my junior year, was the first time Lassiter baseball had ever been to the state playoffs. And so a lot of people don't realize that. So first time ever, and we lost in the first round to Osborne. And
that is shocking, absolutely shocking, especially for guys like myself. I'm over here at Harrison. All we can do is look up and say, man, Lassiter is this great baseball haven with so many key players. But to hear that, you kind of go, wow, I didn't realize. Just simply because there were always, coaching was good, you had a great facility, and there were great players.
Yeah.
For years. It's been that way.
Yeah, no, it has. And so kind of that 94, and obviously there were good teams before that, but that was the first year Lassiter had ever gone to the state playoffs. Then in 95, we end up going all the way to the state championship and losing to Sprayberry. And that's a whole other story in of itself, because we've talked about this before. It was weird back then. A lot of people don't realize too how baseball, like the GHSA, was all wonky back then.
Yeah.
So that was back when you played a regular season, then you played a region tournament, then you played the state tournament. Yep. So Sprayberry was in our region, and we played them 4 times in the regular season. And we beat them like all 4 times. Like, I don't even know if there was a close game. So we played them 3 times in the regular season and then 1 time in the region tournament. And so they were on the road the whole way through the state playoffs, and we were at home, and we rolled through, and they kind of were having 3-game series all the way through. And so all of a sudden we get to the state championship and we're playing Sprayberry at Sprayberry. So, nowadays, like that would never happen. You either be at a neutral site or, or at the very least, you're at the team that was the higher seed.
Yes. Yep.
So we played at Sprayberry, and I remember it was crazy. There was, masses of people up there on the street, where you can look, whatever, the Sandy Plains Road. And, and they ended up beating us. And they had, and looking back, I mean, we had Tony Burchett. I don't know if you remember Tony, but he had separated his shoulder in the series before. So he was out, and that was a key loss for us. Man. But Sprayberry had an unbelievable team. You had Chris Bowen, you had Marlon Bird, you had Brandon Watley, Todd Falk, who, these names mean nothing to some of the people, but these were really good players. So it wasn't like they were just the massive, but they were really good. And that was back when, so Chris Bowen pitched 7 innings in game 1. They beat us 4-3 or whatever it was. He was warming up to go into game 2. And then he came back, 17 hours later and went 7 innings in game 3.
Oh my goodness. That would never happen now.
So that stuff doesn't happen today.
No.
But it was an unbelievable time. But Coach McMurtry, who Coach Mick is what we called him. And, he's a legend out there. And I would always say, like, Coach Mick isn't the greatest X's and O's tactician that I've ever been around, but he created, it's hard to explain if you've ever been around him. He's just real curmudgeon-y in the way he talks. But he created this culture of winning. There was an expectation of winning. And one of the great stories that has to do with Harrison, and I don't remember if this one was when I was there or if this was like after, like I would come back and watch games. But I remember Harrison where y'all were playing at Lassiter, and y'all pull up in the bus, and Coach Mick's just sitting in the dugout, just disgusted look on his face. And we're like, Coach Mick, what's wrong? And he's like, y'all are getting off the bus wearing white hats. He's like, white hats. He goes, I figure we ought to beat anybody that comes in here wearing white hats. So where I'm going with this is he was really good at kind of focusing on this like one thing to hate about the other. It could have been your best friends, but like they're our enemy for the next 2 hours.
That's it.
And so and everybody kind of took on his personality.
Yeah.
And Coach Mick had a way of kind of, uniting the team sort of against him. Mm-hmm. Like he would do things in practice and we would all kind of be united. Like, oh, why is Coach Mick? Man, we really hate him right now. And like, it was almost like by design. So I always appreciated him he was a blue collar, no nonsense kind of guy. So it was that kind of, but he created this culture of winning that I always really appreciated. But after that, so from 94 was the first year of the state playoffs ever. Mm-hmm. And then after that, Lassiter really had a run there where they, for whatever reason, I think that was back where Atlanta, a lot of the people that were coming in for jobs, they had kids that were athletes. They would, go out to Lassiter, go to Wall, whatever. They kind of coming out in this Cobb area was where people, and as you've seen today, the area has grown so much that it's not the case. Like the talent's gotten really diluted.
It has.
People are moving up 400 in Forsyth County and West Cobb and Hillgrove. Right. And so it's not as concentrated, but they really had a run there of, probably, close to 20 years where it was like they had an unbelievable run of talent.
Yeah. I remember, I guess it was it may have been 96 and 97 where they came in second. I think they went down to Hayhira and faced Colquitt. You had Hayden Galimo, who I think who threw like 2 games in a row or something like that. But you go back and look at it. You had guys, one of my good friends, Blair McCaleb. Yeah. He was the catcher there. You had Brad Stockton, Kevin Coleman. This is all kind of the 97 team. But we went over and played Lassiter that year, and I think Corey Patterson led off the home run. I think I hit 2 home runs. We absolutely demolished you guys. Right. But then y'all turn around and you just motored through the playoffs. Yeah. And I think we have to attribute some of that to Coach Mick. He did have a way of uniting the guys to play at another level collectively. Yes, individually, but collectively. So that's pretty amazing to see. So tell me a little bit about summer baseball. Who did you play for at East Cobb? Obviously played there, but who did you play for during that time? Yeah, so, and I remember when you had Goody on, we talked about how back then a lot of people don't realize like East Cobb wasn't. So I did not start playing. I only played at East Cobb for 3 years. I didn't start till I was 16. So up until that time, because East Cobb wasn't, like it is today. Yeah. There was maybe 3 or 4 teams at each age group. So I played, when I was 16, I played for Gary and Coach Guy. And I know we've all talked about that. And it turned out to be a blessing in disguise because Coach Guy then went on to be the hitting coach at Georgia Tech when I was there. So I played for Gary and Coach Guy when I was 16. And then 17 and 18, I played for James Beavers. And a full circle moment, and this is what I always wanted is, so my son is a junior in high school. And we talked James last year into doing a 16-year-old team. Now, he kind of oversaw it, but he wasn't coaching the actual games. But this year, my son's 17U, and he's playing for James. So, man. It's incredible. So he's still going, and I always wanted that for my son. Yeah. Because we played at 6'4", we talk about guys that shaped Cobb baseball. Yep. Danny Prago, I want to say we played over there for 4 years, and it's you'll never hear me say a bad word about Danny or Jake Prago. They are great developers. They are great teachers. It's positive energy that they bring to the game, which in baseball we talked about. Whereas the Coach Mick was back then, that was kind of what we were used to. We talk about leadership styles, and when you and I were coming through high school, that kind of military, like you're gonna do what I say, and whether you like it or not, like I think that was a successful style of leadership, and that was more popular back then. Yeah. And fast forward to today, I liked it, but I think today that kids, especially in baseball, it's a game of failure. It's largely a game of failure. It's more important than ever for coaches out there. The kids need to feel that there's a connection and that there's a belief from the coach. So I always tell coaches, even if you're faking it, learn about the kids, learn about their personal life, roam around the outfield during batting practice, ask them about, who's your girlfriend? What's your dad do for a living? Yep. They got to feel like that you care about them as a person. And I'm telling you, that will
translate into them playing better.
Yeah.
I truly believe that.
You're right. Yeah. I have to say, if you back up for just a second, it's funny because we kind of follow a same trail. You know, you played for Gary and you played for Coach Guy when you're 16. Before I came to East Cobb, I came over and when I was 15 years old, I had played at Perry Parm.
Right, yeah.
I mean, I'm from the West Cobb area. We didn't have very good baseball at all at that time. And so I played at Perry Parm. And then when I got to Harrison, I guess Gary had called and invited me over. And it really changed the way I perceived baseball. Yeah. You know, it was the same fundamental game, but you're right. Gary was kind of setting a new path for this area that I don't think any of us really understood at the time. It was great. We loved it because we got to travel all over the place. We didn't have, you know, a massive complex.
Yes.
You played at Lassiter or at Walton,
That's right.
depending if it was the summer or if it was in the fall. And we would travel. And I'd get in the front seat next to Gary in the bus, and he would drive. Knoxville, Nashville, Florida, wherever we were going. And so I get to sit there, and I didn't talk that much, but I would ask some questions of Gary, you know, and get to spend some time with him. But I learned so much from Coach Guy about hitting. I'll never forget, I was struggling, and he did something called frustrating BP with me. He moved up the L screen, and he was tossing it. I mean, it was like so slow. And he was like, I want you to hit it right back up the middle at the L screen. Yeah. And I went out that game and I hit 2 home runs. And I thought, this man is a genius. There's so many things that he knows. And to be honest with you, I wanted to play for him in college. And I actually committed to Tech early. That's another story we can talk about. But he was the guy that I wanted to play for. I absolutely thought the world of him. And it was fun to play for Gary. I mean, you know, he wasn't much fun for some guys, but I had a great relationship with him.
I did too. And I laugh to this day. People or parents are just terrified of Gary, and I get it. Like, but if you know, I mean, when you played for Gary, for whatever reason, like you wanted to play hard for him, and the more you played for him, you kind of learned that it was almost like he was performing for fans that might not have been there the night before.
Yeah, that's right.
I mean, so think about it. Yeah. How many times have you heard this deal? If I've heard this once, I've heard it 100 times. Where I've heard him say this to umpires. This exact spiel. He's like, "Be consistent." So inconsistent. The only thing consistent about you is that you're inconsistent. You're consistently inconsistent. I've heard him do that spiel like at least 200 times.
Yeah.
And it's classic. And so it's almost like you and I, we heard it a million, but it was as if he was performing for maybe there's somebody who wasn't here last night. But I saw Gary, I mean, I don't know if you remember Andrew Ferrer, big first baseman at Lassiter. So he was he played with Gary with me. And that was, we had like Michael Barrett and Adam Everett. I mean, we had a great team, but I remember we played a doubleheader in the first inning of both games. Whoever we were playing, guy hit a double, and Ferrer didn't trail the runner to second, and Gary jerked him out in the first inning of both games. And to this day, I mean, I remember when I got back when I got done playing pro ball, I'd still go around and watch high school games, and I saw Gary up at like Walton one day, and whoever was pitching, it was like a good player. And I just saw Gary at the concession stand. I was like, "Hey Gary, what do you know about this kid pitching?" And just in typical Gary, just without hesitation, he's the worst player I've ever seen. And like I knew he was joking, but if you don't know Gary,
my first encounter with Gary Baldwin was in the old basketball gym at McEachern High School. This is before Harrison was built. I was actually supposed to go to McEachern. And and I was playing 7th grade basketball, and we were playing against Walton. And the first, 30 seconds of this game, the other coach is like screaming at the referees. I mean, screaming. So they call a technical foul on him. And then he picks up his chair and throws it out on the floor. And I'm like, who is this maniac? And then he has his clipboard and he takes it and he throws it down. It snaps. And then he just walked out. And I was like, I mean, everybody's just shocked. We're like, what in the world? And I didn't know, that was when I was in 7th grade. I didn't know when I was in the 9th grade, 2 years later, that he was going to be calling, and that's the guy I was going to go play for.
Yeah.
But I had a great relationship with him. He taught me so much. I was always kind of a stoic. I didn't show any emotion when I was playing. Right. And I'll never forget one day, I don't know, it's like our 3rd game of the day or something. It was crazy. And he walks up, and I had not been hitting well. And he said, this is kind of ridiculous. It's almost paradoxical. He says, you know, Knox, you should probably smile. Yeah. And I'm looking at him like, you never smile. What are you telling me for? And he said, just smile and you'll get a hit. Yeah. And so, but he did. He had a way which he would get us to play at another level. And it was for him. And I think it was because he was always on the umpires. Yeah. If there was a bad call, radar ears, and he's always screaming at him. He felt
like he had your back. I think that's important for players. And, we can get into that later. But in pro ball, you really learn that like a manager, I would tell any high school coach, like the kids, if they know that you have their back, like that's a big thing to them. Mm-hmm. And that's a big thing in pro ball is like, that's why you see benches clear. We were talking about the Braves last night. And Walt Weiss is out the one tackling Jorge Soler. But I mean, but the players really respect that. But your point, like Gary, I mean, you're right. I mean, he would do things like, I remember when he'd give signs to the catcher and the catcher didn't understand the catcher's like that. And he'd just go, fast ball, and like stick his pinky out. And he would be yelling things from the dugout. You'd be scared to death, like thinking, and then all of a sudden he'd come to the mound to take you out, and you'd be trembling, and he'd be like, not bad, pretty good job. And then he'd walk out. So he was interesting.
And he did have like a joking way that other people didn't realize.
Yes.
So I remember one time Blair McCaleb's behind the plate. We're at Lassiter. It's the East Cobb game. And Blair, I think, was getting tired, and he wasn't moving to block the ball. The balls had been getting to the backstop. And Gary's sitting on the bucket, and he says, "Move your butt, you fat turd." and so this lady from the other team is like, "Don't you talk to that boy that way." Oh, yeah. And he goes, "Time out." And he walked over there and I guess said something to the lady and turned around and walked back.
Yeah.
And then you're just like, you're laughing, and Blair was laughing. He thought it was funny too.
Of course.
But it was kind of like this baseball way of joking. And we all knew it, but.
Yeah. And it's like, people don't get that now. And
no,
you brought up funny where I don't know what made me think of this little quick story, but we're one of those, like back then we didn't have the complexes. So I remember this was a fall tournament my senior year. And we went to play in like Knoxville or somewhere over the weekend.
Yeah.
And I mean, we're talking Sunday, 6:00. We got to drive back to Atlanta. Like, we're going to get out of there. Yeah. And we're in the first base dugout, and there's this kid up to bat. We're in the field. And the umpire's kind of squeezing our pitcher. And the kid, they had their names on the back of their jersey. So this Bayer was this kid's last name.
Yeah.
And you could tell Gary, the umpire, squeezing. So Gary's getting mad. So Gary, out of the blue, just goes, "Swing the bat, Bayer." And like the next 2 pitches were like over the guy's head. And the kid, the kid was so flustered by it. He struck out, and then we got out of there and drove back to Atlanta.
Oh, I love it. Well, those were the early days of East Cobb. And I think they really set in motion a lot of things that we see now at a different level. Let's move forward for just a second. Let's talk about Georgia Tech. Yeah. Georgia Tech baseball, obviously right now, is hot. Yeah. There's some great things happening there. Guy, Dominic Stevens, he played at Harrison last year. He's a freshman there this year. Great to see what's happening there. But let's go back to 1995, 96, 97, and talk about Georgia Tech baseball, which had come off of some really incredible seasons. Guys like with Nomar and Veritek, these were guys that obviously we're watching, and I was watching it as a young player. Tell me what it was like playing at Georgia Tech.
It was great. So I, my father, people don't know, my dad went to Georgia Tech in the 60s, and he was I always joke, he was a jock sniffer. He was a football manager, and but. So I don't know why, when I was in high school, I was always kind of a little bit of a homebody. Like I was, pretty highly recruited. I could have gone a lot of different places, but I kind of always knew, like, okay, I wanted to kind of stay close to home. Mm-hmm. And looking back, it turned out great because it gave me a chance to be a two-way player. So my freshman year I go in, And right before my freshman season, I have bone chips in my elbow. So I have to have a little arthroscopic surgery. It wasn't, that serious. But so my freshman year, all I did was pitch a little bit. Like I didn't pitch a ton. And that was back when, disposable bats almost. So pitching back in those days was not fun. If you got a 5 ERA, you were like, oh my God, this guy's unreal. So playing in, Division I baseball that year. And I pitched a little bit, but didn't hit at all. I go to Cape Cod after my freshman year and as a pitcher, and I look back and I almost wish, looking back, it was kind of a weird experience because you're there and most of the people at the Cape were sophomores or juniors, right? Mm-hmm. And I was a freshman and I wasn't old enough to kind of go out to the bars and hang with the guys. And that was the summer when the Olympics were here in Atlanta.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm up at this, staying with this host family up in, nowhere, Cape Cod. And I'm watching, kind of getting homesick, watching the Olympics. And all I was doing was pitching. And you're up there pitching against these dudes. And it was tough.
Yeah.
So if I had to do it all over again, I was like, man, I want to wait until after my sophomore year.
Yeah.
But anyway, so I go to Cape Cod.
But that is an honor, by the way.
I know, absolutely.
To be fair.
Absolutely.
And just to say this, maybe as a parenthetical statement, I always looked up to you. I was 2 years younger than you, but I always looked up to you. I thought, I'm left-handed, you were left-handed. And, you kind of search out guys you want to emulate, right? Even guys that are just a little bit older than you, obviously much older than you as well. But you were an incredible pitcher at Lassiter. You were an incredible pitcher during the summer at East Cobb. And I'll never forget thinking, I want to pitch like that guy. And then when you went to Tech, and I thought, yeah, I'd like to go to Tech. My grandfather graduated from Tech in 1954. Okay. He was a civil engineer. Yeah. My uncle actually was a professor there until he died about 8 years ago of cancer. But I always wanted to go to Tech. So when I saw you go there, I thought, wow. But when you went to Cape Cod after the freshman year, that's a high honor because you're right. Absolutely. It's usually seniors, juniors. It's guys that are much older.
Yeah.
So it tells you something about your level of play to be able to be invited to go somewhere like that.
No doubt. And I say that. I mean, I would never have turned it down, but it was, but the experience itself, I probably was not quite ready for that level of, competition. And like I said, kind of being a little bit homesick from what was going on in Atlanta.
Yep.
But so I go back that fall and Coach Guy is our hitting coach. And, he talks Coach Hall into saying, hey, why don't you put Prather into a hitting group? So he puts me into a hitting group, and, lo and behold, I have a good showing in the fall. And we come our first game of the year, we're playing at Georgia Southern. I'm in left field. I'm starting in left field. And I come up, my first at bat I'm facing Ryan Cummings, Walton High School, who played with me in the summer. He was a year older. He played with me on the East Cobb Yankees. And my first college at bat, bomb, dead center field off Ryan Cummings, my old teammate. And so we to this day, we'll still joke about that. And then I come in to pitch that game in relief, in the 7th inning. First batter I face, I give up a bomb. I forget the guy's name. He's a good hitter, but I give up a bomb, first batter. So I was like, I got to be part of some unique club. My first at bat and then my first batter I faced were both home runs. So the rest is history. I basically, for the next 2 years, my sophomore and junior year, I was a two-way guy. And I was able to pretty much start it in the outfield, pretty much almost every game, whether it was, and I've moved around. Sometimes I played center field more in my junior year. I played left field. I played some right field, but I was out there almost every game. And so I attribute a lot of that to Coach Guy, who was so going to Georgia Tech, I think one of the main things I think that helped me is it was local, so people kind of knew me, and I kind of felt like I had people in my corner already.
Oh, yeah.
And I tell kids that today. A lot of kids they get this shiny out, I'm going to go to play baseball at University of Texas, or I'm going to go to Stanford. There's nothing wrong with that, but I've seen historically kids go do that, and what they realize, they get there, and they're like, oh, I'm the only kid that's not from the state of Texas here. And you're kind of this fish out of water, and you don't get the benefit of the doubt. You don't get the extra. So I think at Georgia Tech, having people that were already familiar with me and being local really worked to my benefit.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, you guys still had great seasons. I remember I did an early commit to Tech in 97. You could commit in the fall of your senior year. And I'll never forget, I committed. I had to call Coach Trespasses.
Oh, yeah. He's Coach
And had to call him. And is he still in Hawaii?
No, I want to say he's somewhere in Texas now coaching.
Okay.
I kept up with him for the longest time. He was great, because he recruited me. He was my pitching coach.
Yeah.
I love Trap, and talk about a great with connecting with the players. I mean, he was I really liked him a lot. He was great.
Wow. Well, you all had incredible players, a lot of talent. I think a lot of people don't realize how much the stadiums have changed, especially like Georgia Tech's stadium compared to what it used to be. I mean, baseball has grown exponentially, not only from a high school level, but a college
Nick,
level.
Think about this. This was when I was at Georgia Tech. This was before the super regionals were around. So there were only 8 regionals, and each regional had 6 teams, I believe.
You're right.
And just for the people out there that might not know, the reason they changed it is because the same 8 teams were always going to Omaha.
Yeah.
And so there was no parity. So, but where I'm going with this is, my sophomore year, we were one of the best teams in the country. We had to go to Mississippi State we were the number 1 seed at Mississippi State. Well, thanks. There's like 15,000 people cheering against us. So my point is, when we were there, sort of like how it was weird in high school, we're playing at Sprayberry. When I'm in college, we're at Mississippi State as the 1 seed. Whereas in today's world, we would have been hosting.
That's right.
It was weird.
It was different. I remember in '98, I was at South Carolina, and we went to the regional. It was at Miami.
Yeah.
And we went down there and played. Pat Burrell was there at Miami.
Yes.
And he hit bombs. Oh, my goodness. Yeah. But it was great because we had North Carolina. We had Texas Tech, I believe. Yeah. We had a lot of different teams. And it was just a regional. And if you won, and we came down to, it was us in Miami.
Right.
To go to the College World Series, and they beat us.
Yeah.
But it was different. It wasn't the magnitude it is now.
Well, and I think you really caught, you tell me, but it feels like you were, when we were coming up, that kind of mid to late 90s college baseball era, it felt like that was really the period of time where in my opinion, where the SEC just took off in every sport. It was sort of like that was the beginning of just their dominance in football. To me, in today's world, it's like the SEC and then, maybe the Big Ten, and then there's this like drop off. They just seem to dominate.
Yeah.
And I remember when I first went to college, like I don't remember like Georgia wasn't very good. And like it didn't seem like the SEC but they weren't, it just didn't feel like they were dominant like they were, but it felt like it was starting to happen.
And there were certain teams at the top of the SEC that were making it happen.
Yeah.
You're right. There wasn't this clear demarcation between ACC, SEC. It really had this amalgamation. It blended together, and you're kind of like, man, you're just playing on these different teams, and they were different conferences, but great. You always knew that the ACC was going to have incredible basketball. I think that was the only clear separation that you could see. Because for years, Tech had a great basketball team. They had Duke, North Carolina, all those had incredible basketball teams. So you watched the ACC for basketball. But as far as the baseball, they were all kind of blended together. And you're right. Yeah. I was recruited by Georgia in '97. I went over there. Coach Sapp was the coach. He had just come up from wherever he'd come from. I can't remember. It was a smaller school in Georgia. And I remember thinking, great stadium, but they suck. Georgia sucks. Tech will beat them every single time. Yeah. It's not the same way today, and it hasn't been the last 10 years, the last decade.
That's
right. It's back and forth. Tech and Georgia's had a great baseball program.
Yeah.
But at that time they didn't.
No, one of the great stories, I think it was Sapp now, but one of the great stories they tell is, I forget about it, they were after a game, they were out there in right field, and whoever the coach, I think it was Sapp, was going on about, how in the heck do we lose when, we only score 3 runs. He's pointing at the scoreboard. And finally, like one of the assistant coaches, he's like, Coach, the other team only scored 3 runs. And he's like, well, how the heck do you lose when you only give up 3 runs to the other team? So it was,
I made the decision to go to Carolina. Georgia comes to play us at Carolina my freshman year. I'm starting at first base, and we had some hecklers over the third base dugout. And so the heckler says, hey, Sapp, how old are you? And the other guy says, I think Jesus is in your yearbook. Oh, they were giving it to him.
We grew up in a fun. Everything's much more sanitized now.
It is.
I'll tell people all the time. I don't miss. I can't like I told you earlier. I can't recall that many exact results of games.
Yeah.
But I can remember it's the relationship. So a great example. I don't know why I remember this. I remember playing Florida State one year at Georgia Tech. Coach goes out. I'm up at the plate. Coach goes out to make a mound visit. So I walk down to talk to Coach Guy, and this is how Coach Guy would just and I walked to him. He's like, "Get a hit or you're off the team." Things like that. And he would just. And so I don't know why I remember. I don't remember what happened in the at bat. Don't know if we won the game or not. But I remember specifically Coach Guy that get a hit or you're off the team, and that dry wit humor that he had.
The pitching coach at Harrison played for Coach Guy and for Coach for Gary, and it was funny because we always joke around. Coach Guy used to always say, "Put the squibbies in the squammy." The squibbies, and you're like, he's the only guy I've ever heard say that before.
And people don't realize. So for those that don't know, Coach Guy, he just made up this word "squibby," and he basically it means everything. Hey, big, put the squibby over in the squibby. We gotta get the squibby on the squibby. So we'd come back at 3 a.m. from a bus trip at Georgia Tech, and we'd have to put the tarp on the field. At 3 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah.
He'd just get up at the end of the bus. He goes, "Hey, we gotta put the squibby on the squibby. So get the squibbies and let's go."
I love it. Yeah. Oh, man. Well, it sounds like you had a great time playing at Tech, and they've been very successful for many years. Let's move forward just a little bit and talk about you got drafted by the St. Louis Cardinals in 1998 in the 16th round. What was it like going and playing in the minors?
So I always tell people that's where my baseball education begins, meaning from a situational X's and O's standpoint, I probably learned the most about baseball in professional baseball. As far as if I were a high school coach today or coach at a travel team, most of the stuff I would do from a tactical standpoint, I felt like I got a great education.
Yeah.
But what was it like? Let's see. So get drafted in the 16th round. Once again, I told you, I grew up around here, playing at East Cobb, played at Georgia Tech. I hadn't really, expanded my wings that much. So they're like, all right, you're going up to short season A ball. You're up in the New Jersey Cardinals.
Whoa.
So I fly into Newark.
Ooh, boy.
A rainy day. And I'm like, oh, man. So whoever they could come and pick me up at the airport. And by the way, I was up there I was the last one there because Georgia Tech, because of the Olympics, we got out of school later than anybody. Okay. So I couldn't go. The team, they hadn't started playing games, but they send all the college guys that get drafted up to short season A ball. Yeah. So you have rookie ball, which is mostly the high school kids that get drafted. So anyway, so I fly into Newark. They pick me up. We drive 2 hours up. I didn't even know New Jersey had mountains like that. I mean, we're up in the mountains. It's on the border of Pennsylvania and New Jersey. And they're like, okay, you're going to be staying with a host family. This is back still when they did host families. And they're like, go on in the clubhouse. And the stadium's actually beautiful, but in the middle of nowhere. And they're like, go on in the clubhouse and, y'all are practicing. The rest of the team will be here and we'll let you know who your host family is. So I walk into this clubhouse. Talk about, me growing up, East Cobb. There's 9 Dominican players. And they're got soccer going on the TV. And they're just, and I'm like, what did I get myself into? So that was my introduction. But long story, it was a wonderful experience. You meet so many people from different walks of lives. And it's a study in human nature. And it's a humbling experience. And I always tell people, you meet these Dominican players who are living, 9 guys in a 1-bedroom apartment on air mattresses and kids come in from high school. And it's just this interesting, also mixed with Stanford grads and Georgia Tech guys. And it's this interesting mix of people. And I don't know if you remember Jose Oquendo.
Yeah.
So he was my manager my first year. He's one of the best. He's great. Man. Loved Jose Oquendo.
Wow.
Yeah. But so that was my intro to pro ball, and it was but it's an awesome experience. You really got to love it though. I mean, it's,
Mm-hmm.
you think college is a grind compared to high school, but
Yeah.
you get to pro ball, man. And it's a whole different deal. I mean, 6 a.m. bus ride, and they've changed by the way, we can talk about how baseball's changed. The whole minor league setup has changed. I think now they do like 6-game series. So you play a team 6 times and then you get a day off.
Wow.
So that way, cause like back then, we would be on buses, you play 3 games on the road, then you come back for 3, then you're on the road for 10 and then home for 7. So they've changed that all around.
Right.
We can talk about how I think that's contributed to injuries as
Yeah.
well.
Yeah.
Because they don't do that in the big leagues.
Right.
But in the minor leagues, they've changed but it's, but no, I really enjoyed it. And it was, I wouldn't trade it for anything, but it was you got to love doing it.
And I think that's the key that a lot of people need to hear, especially if you're aspiring to go and play further. You want to play in the minors. You want to get to the pros one day. You've really got to love it. I mean, it has to be an obsession because, and I remember taking just bus trips that you thought this bus is not going to make it. It's a dump. And the place we're staying at, it's horrible. Like, we stayed in better places in East Cobb baseball and in college, and it's like a step down. Oh, yeah. And I think that was one of the things that other guys that I played with said, man, I don't know if I'm going to last very long. This is tough. It's roughing it.
Well, I learned that it's funny. One thing I always tell people is your opinion of a city is all around your baseball experience when you're in minor league. So I joke around and said, Rockford, Illinois is the worst place I've ever been in my life. It might be the great city, but like we stayed at this Howard Johnson that was, water on all the floors of the hotels. And by the way, one of the great minor league stories so Rockford, Illinois is miserable. It's like August, dog days. We're trying to get out of there. So two of our guys on our team pulled a Bull Durham. They took a cab in the middle of the night to the stadium and put a hose on and had it on. There was a hose on the mound, right? And they faced it towards home plate and turned it on and just left it on all night. So the next day, the rumors start coming in. They're like, hey, there's something happened at the field. There might be a rain out. We're like, yeah, that's what we're going for.
Yeah, please.
And but the other team, the team we were playing, they were having a team meeting. Like their coach was about to fine them. He thought it was one of their guys. So the classic thing is they get this field ready somehow. We show up, and so we're like, man, it didn't work. So we get there, and the mound. You know how like the Diamondbacks have like the little dirt path leading to home plate to the mound. Uh-huh. Imagine that, except it was like 10 feet wide. Oh, so it's just all dirt. But they got it ready. And our starting pitcher that night was one of the guys that was trying to get the rain delay. And I'll never forget, I'm sitting in the dugout. He goes out and gives up a 3 spot in the first inning. Oh. And he comes in, sits down next to me, just dead face, and he takes his hat off and he looks at me and goes, well, that idea backfired. So people ask, like, is Bull Durham realistic? I was like, yeah, it is. Yeah. But what's not realistic is they don't show you, Bull Durham's a 2-hour movie. They don't show you the other 22 hours in the minor league day.
Oh, man.
You know how it is, Nick, when you're in clubhouses, whether it's college or pro ball, like you become a master of trivial nonsense knowledge. Like I might be the best USA Today crossword puzzle guy in the country.
Yeah, I can see that.
And I mean, you start talking about just absurdities that are,
You do. There's a lot of downtime.
A lot.
Oh my goodness. Wow. Well, all right, let's move on just a little bit. I know this is going to be a little side note here, but sure. You ever had any good fights in baseball? Because I mean, some guys who played baseball love fights, and I'm just going to throw this out there.
Yeah, I don't remember, and they're more prevalent in pro ball. I don't remember any, like us. I do remember the Cardinals, teams that I weren't a part of. Like there was some, like in Peoria one year, there was a huge brawl. There were a couple like huge brawls that I wasn't a part of.
Right.
But one of the this is sort of a brawl story, but this is unbelievable. By the way, when I was in New Haven, Connecticut, AA, my first year. First of all, we're in the first base dugout, but our clubhouse was down the third base line.
Oh man.
So it wasn't connected. So not only was it not connected to the dugout, but we were on the other side for some reason.
Yeah.
And so if you had to like use the restroom during the game, like you had to run in between. Well, so our bullpen, so what ended up happening is some guys had to use the restroom in the middle of the game. They would run down to our bullpen and you could go up under the stands. Like there's a little thing up under there. And so one of our center fielders, he's in between innings, he runs down there and he goes up on there and all of a sudden you look down there and he's in a brawl with our closer, like within the team, like something had happened. They had started mouthing off to each other, like as he was coming out. So he went down there to go use the bathroom and then he's coming back out. We look down there and our own teammates are brawling. So,
well, I asked that about fights because, in general, if you played in Cobb County, you played East Cobb baseball, you had a little bit of grit in you, a little bit of confidence. We could kind of be jerks, at times. We were very competitive people.
Sure.
And so I just asked that because I know I saw a number of fights in my time and obviously was in a couple. And you think back to those times and you're like, well, I probably was a little antagonistic. I probably caused some of these. And I do know that I caused a number of them. So,
I definitely had times where there were, words exchanged. By the way, I'm going to think about how I'm going to say this. You don't see as many hit batters these days.
No.
And that kind of surprises me.
Yeah.
I've kind of taught my son the unwritten rules of like, hey, dude pimps a home run off you, like right situation.
Right. Yeah.
Next batter, next on. Now you didn't hear, I'll never admit that I told you this, but but it's weird that like kids are, especially now, with all some of the stuff.
Man.
Imagine we were playing some of the double celly. Guys are pimping walks now. You're pimping a walk.
Yeah. Well, that's why I say that. You and I are both the same, obviously being left-handed, but I also was able to do two-way, and not only was able to get in situations where it was like, all right, this dude's going to wear one because he just pimped one off a minute ago, or I hit one and I might have pimped a couple myself, and then the next guy received the bat or the ball in the back. But
and I always thought it was fun as a pitcher. Of course, like I hit, and I was never trying to throw anybody's head. But I would hit guys on purpose, sure.
Right. Yep.
And what's funny is I ran into a guy a couple of years ago, and I always wanted to say, even I think I remember it. He's like, "Hey, do you remember when you drilled me back in high school when we played?" And I always want to say, "No, I looked because this is great. This is what you got." I said, "Nope, but you do, and that's all that matters." He's like, "Do you remember when you?" I said, "Nope, but you do, and that's all that matters." So I always wanted to keep that in the back of your head. Wow. But I don't think kids realize like that should be,
It was a part of the game, man. It was a part of the game.
It was.
And we did it.
Yeah.
And I think it's a part of the game maybe missing right now. But anyway, let me ask you this. Who were some of the best coaches that you played for? Because we look back and coaches mean so much.
Yeah. So I kind of put these into categories of the best father figure mentor all around for me was James Beavers. Like I told you, that's why I want my son to play for him. I don't know how to explain it. James is very knowledgeable with baseball, but not the best X's and O's guy I've been around, but he's really good. But James just has a way of, if you want to play at the next level, he kind of works you, and it's a very professional. So James they wear the uniform. You go, most summer coaches are in shorts and he wears full uniform still. Yeah. And he kind of holds you to a standard, which I appreciate. I like that. Yes. So it's a very professional atmosphere. Yep. And that's one thing I love about the St. Louis Cardinals. Same way. It's Cardinals, very professional atmosphere. So, James will get you out there early and you take BP on the field, and he kind of uses Lassiter still as his kind of home base. He doesn't, like when we play pool play games this summer, like 99% of them will be at Lassiter at 11 a.m. So he's kind of built up that credit, but so I feel like he's very professional, and he's always been like a second father to me. Throughout my whole career, James is very good about tailoring advice to the individual. Like he doesn't treat her, but he knows who he can get on their butt a little bit, and he knows who he needs to pat on the back. So I think James is a very good psychologist, and he understands you can get on him, but you better have somebody patting him on the back 30 minutes later.
Right.
So James, I think, is the best all around. Once again, Coach Guy, probably the best hitting coach I have, because to this day, like you said, man, everything's paradoxical, sort of like the Bible,
Yeah.
The humble will be exalted.
That's right.
And so the world's the same. I was a Coach Guy. Everything was hard on the ground. That was the approach. Hit it hard on the ground. And today we've overcomplicated hitting.
Yeah, we have.
And it's almost like the opposite. Now it's almost like soft in the air. Like I'm waiting for, but so Coach Guy, like for his hitting approach and the way he was kind of able to deal with the personalities of each individual player. Like he could, he treated JJ Thomas, who was real, high strung, great hitter, but JJ, he had to treat JJ different than he treated me. Always loved Gary. And I don't it's hard to explain. Gary was like, he could have been a jerk, but he was like, he was our jerk. He was your jerk. And I wanted to play hard for the guy. Like I loved him. And he was he was good about baseball. He knew baseball. And then high school wise, obviously Coach Mick, we talked about that earlier, just kind of created that blue collar, like toughness culture, like winning expectation.
Oh yeah.
And then as far as situational, I played with a guy, my AA coach this day. His name's Mark DeJohn, and he coached in the big leagues with LaRussa for like 7 or 8 years. And then I was fortunate enough my last year to have him as our AA coach. And he looked like Bald Bull from Mike Tyson's Punch Out. He's this bald guy, and he had a mustache. And Nick, I'm telling you, it was so during spring training, I'll never forget this. Like when you get to pro ball, a lot of guys just cuss like F-bomb every other word. Just that's their vernacular.
Right.
That's how they talk.
Yeah.
And we were going up to New Haven, Connecticut after spring training for AA, and there was going to be this banquet for the team, and he was going to be the keynote speaker. And I mean, I'm serious. This guy cussed so much that we're like, he's not going to be able to do it. Like we all thought like he's going to be up there and like embarrass himself.
Yeah.
Mick, he gets up there, proceeds to give like a 45-minute like stand-up comedy routine and doesn't curse once. Like the guy was unbelievable like that. He was hilarious, but he was the most knowledgeable. So here's a great example of things I'm talking about. So my son's game yesterday, we're playing a team, and they got a runner on first in like the 5th inning where, the game's tied 1-1. Runner on first, 2-2 count. And it's like 2-2 count on the batter, and they steal, and we throw the guy out, for the second out. And then we had proceeded to walk the next guy. And so it was little things like, I don't think a lot of these high school kids, they're not thinking ahead, like pitches ahead.
Yeah.
So I remember like DJ thinking like situations like that. He's like 2-2. He's like, look, if I'm going to run 3-2, then why am I going to run 2-2?
Right.
And so, because what ended up happening is we walked the next guy. So instead of having first and second, 1 out, they had man on first with 2 outs, and the next guy like popped out.
Right.
And so it's like little things like that the guy was, you just learned genius things. And then I will say this, I do want to bring this up because I talked to Danny Praga. So 6'4", I thought I knew a lot about baseball as far as it, but the way they control the running game, if you ever play a 6'4" team, they have all these pickoffs, and they'll back pick the guy at first with the bases loaded, and you're like fascinated by it. So anyways, our 4 years over there learning how that, I feel like I'm a, apprentice that knows how the magic trick works. I can't believe I'm serious. You tell the guys at Harrison, y'all pay me $100 or pay Danny and come out there and teach you guys. I don't know why teams aren't doing it.
Yeah.
I watched my son in 4 years, just my son alone, probably get himself out of 20 jams. So by picking guys off. God. And the way they do it's genius. And I'm amazed that high school coaches don't do it. So I want to give props to Danny and 6'4" for the way that I've told him he should make a video of it and like sell it. Cause it's brilliant the way they do it.
Yeah.
So, but anyways, those are kind of my main, obviously, James, Coach Guy and Gary, and then DJ at the professional level, and then Coach Mick. So they all brought something different that I kind of, Like if you were asked how I would coach today, I'd kind of I'm a mix of all of them.
Yep. All right. So what do you think are some of the things in baseball today that are the same when you played, but then what are some of the things that are different?
I mean, the same, what I think's the same, especially at like a high school level, is I don't think it's changed as far as how you win games. Like I really think like pitching, defense, do the little things right, are still the fundamentals that, you know, but we've seemed to baseball has overall has gone back to like, I'm going to put my 9, you know, strongest hitters, what I perceive to be my 9 strongest hitters.
Yeah.
And, you know, when we're going to try to hit 3-run home runs away, but I still think the fundamentals are the same. And I do think that especially high school state baseball playoffs to me are the most, you know, pure form of baseball.
Yeah.
I don't know why. Like I love high school state baseball. You don't get that atmosphere until you get to like college, you know, college baseball or beyond. But you know, the high school state playoffs, I don't know why. Like I've always loved it. But I mean, difference. I mean, where do I start? I mean, we're talking about paradoxes. So think about it. We've never thrown harder than before, yet we've never thrown less fastballs. Seriously, the big leagues, they talk about Major League Baseball, they're almost at under 50% fastballs. We've arm care and nutrition have never been better, and guys are yet more surgeries, more injuries than ever. So I don't know. What do you, I always like to talk about this. What do you make of it all? It seems like we're doing things like the opposite of how we used to.
Yeah. 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 I think that's human nature though, right? If you're into anthropology, you see and you study human nature, we always ping pong from extremes. I mean, we can talk about this as far as if you're in the political realm or wherever, but we usually ping pong. And from a theological understanding, that's because of sin. We go to extremes. Yes. We always do. We never want to have a balanced approach. We never want to find ourselves in the middle. It's like, can we swing? But I agree with you. I think I agree with what you just said. When we played, it was all about the fundamentals. You played, and it would be categorized as small ball to some degree now, but you bunted when the situation called for it to get the guy over. Amazingly enough, I was watching the Braves the other night. There's a single and a single by Arizona Diamondbacks. So you got a guy on first and second, okay? And then a guy lays down a bunt. That's a sin in Major League Baseball. Right. Elder, the Braves pitcher, picks it up and throws it into right field. 2 guys score.
That's right.
They win the game 2-1. Yeah. What happened? Yeah. Small ball actually works. But we've jumped to this extreme of now it's strikeouts, walks, home runs.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what basically is happening. And guys who hit singles, like a Tony Gwynn, they're not epic enough. They're not electric enough. And yet, those guys go to the Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
Guys who put the ball in play, they stay in the lineup all the time.
Well, Mick, you know what happened is, and you've talked about this, you know, I had an analytics business for college. So what it did, it's the analytics, which I was all for, but I've talked about extremes. I've come all the way back, at least to the middle on, you and I have talked about this. So for example, you cannot convince me that hitting a 84 hopper to second to get a runner in from third with less than 2 outs is not better than a strikeout.
Yeah.
But the analytics, they'll tell you that no, we'd rather you strike out trying to hit a home run because, well, a lot of times, Mick, I don't think people understand about analytics. So everybody, the way I explain it is everybody's trying to create a blackjack strategy but it's not especially like in football, for example. So all these analytics in football, these coaches now, they've created a blackjack strategy but they're playing poker. That's my analogy I use. Like, people don't realize these analytics are run through like regression analysis, and they require long periods of times or huge sample sizes. So that's why they work a little better in baseball. And where they've been good, meaning, I got thousands of at-bats of data on Aaron Judge. So I can shift, that's where it's helpful.
Right.
Where it's not helpful is 6 or 7 years ago, some analytics nerd who's never played baseball said, you know what? I ran a regression analysis and we figured out that if you catch on one knee and you steal the low strike, over time, you can steal 0.000036 runs per game. And so, seriously, the best in Major League Baseball, the very best, and there's only a few of them, they said might add 1 or 2 wins to the team's win total. The majority are neutral or negative. So that's the best. Yeah. But yet, I guarantee you go to any baseball facility around here, you'll have 8-year-olds on one knee stealing low strikes. It doesn't translate. Yeah. So I think the analytics we've taken it too far in the wrong way. So I think that's contributed a lot. Yeah. And we talked earlier that when we were growing up, kids would go play wiffle ball, and it was more free play. And it was, hey, if you hit it in the air, it's an out, or if it hits that tree. So you kind of learn barrel control. And we talked about how now guys I've never seen so many high school kids. All of a sudden they're in the hole 0-2, and then they only know one swing. And so they take a home run swing. They're swinging 0-2 like they would 2-0. Yeah. And there's no fear of striking out. It's just bizarre to me. Like back when we played, like I was embarrassed to strike out, and I was competitive. Like it was like, you're not going to strike me out.
You're not going to strike me out.
I don't care if I might hit one a 2-hopper right back to the pitcher, but I feel like that's a win for me. I didn't strike out. Yeah. So there's no embarrassment of striking out.
There's none. It's just commonplace now.
And
which
you're
is
coaching,
strange.
So I would defer to you on like, why do you think that is?
Well, and I think you brought something up that's very important. You said a word, bat control. Bat control. That has left baseball earth. In the fall, when I get to work with our hitters in the cage, I literally make them throw. We're standing in a full cage. I make them throw it up and hit the baseball to the back and have a hula hoop. So they're trying to put it in the hula hoop. Okay?
Great.
And I ask, and this is kind of cool how it's going to come full circle. I asked a couple of guys who were actually hitting it in the hula hoop. I mean, some guys are pitching a good game against themselves. Like, they can't hit them. No hitter.
Totally, yes.
It's bad. But the guys who were able to hit it into the hula hoop, there were 2 guys that could do it over the last 7 years. And I said, well, where did you learn how to do this? James Beavers.
Really?
We did this for Coach Beavers. We'd go out and play, and we would throw the ball up, and we would hit it.
Yeah.
And I thought, man, bat control.
Yeah.
You're learning how to put a bat on a ball. Amazing, right? Instead of having just one swing. Let me ask you this. How about pitching? What do you think is the big difference today versus when you were pitching?
Same. I think clearly today, and it's another example of how things that are shouldn't translate from the big leagues down, but they do. Yeah. Nowadays you got to throw it in the rectangle on the television to pitch in the big leagues.
Yeah.
You're not getting off the corners. Mm. So it's all just become velocity. Throw it in the rectangle as hard as you can, and we're going to try to elevate and just blow it by people.
Yeah.
Well, as you said, my about high school umpires, I said they're all terrible. Some are less terrible than others. All umpires are terrible. Some are less terrible than others. But my point is the high school umpires they aren't confined by the rectangle. Mm-mm. So I see now these one knee catchers, like they just set up down the middle of the plate. They're kind of, like I said, it's the opposite of what we taught. Yeah. Like when I was pitching, it was like, okay, the catcher's kind of straddling the outer half or the corner and giving a middle of the body target down, like low. Now they're like up. It's like everything's up and they're just throwing middle. Yeah. Yeah. So I think the guys throw harder now, and they might have a nastier, like off-speed pitch.
Yeah.
But they definitely don't pitch better. Like they're definitely not better pitchers. So I think the talent, the skill, there's more guys throwing harder, but like it's just power. So I think that's totally, the rectangle on TV is going to change and
it is.
But major league teams are spending so much on injuries. I think you're about to see a big shift after. There's going to probably be a strike after this season. And they're talking about, some radical changes that could affect like travel ball. And
Yeah.
It's going to be interesting to see.
Yeah. Well, I think I heard that, I may have just pointed out his error a minute ago, but Elder, who threw the ball in right field for the Braves the other night, he went and spent time with Maddox. But I think he went 7 innings the other night, which is unheard of for pitchers to do, but was more commonplace during our time. Yeah. My son pitched last year for Harrison. This year he's pitching for Oglethorpe. And last year he had, think he had 5, maybe 6 complete games.
Really?
And he would throw maybe 80 to 85 pitches. Yeah. His whole, and all he ever did was, I'm going to go out there and I'm trying to throw the fewest amount of pitches. Yes. I'm going to let them hit the ball on the ground because they're going to roll over it, or they're going to go underneath it and pop it up.
Yeah.
And we're going to get outs. And as a hitting guy, that's what I want. I literally have a stopwatch. When the first pitch is thrown by our pitcher, when we're on defense, and then when he throws the last pitch and we get the last out, because I want our guys back in as soon as possible. Yes. I don't want to stand out there, but he struck out 3 guys. Well, who cares? He walked 3, and we had bases loaded, and I made a strike. Yeah. But it took 17 minutes to watch this debacle take place in front of me. Yes. Can we just let the guy hit it, and let's get back in the dugout and hit the baseball? Yeah. And I think that's where, for baseball today is, and especially when I watch pitching, it's almost like this whole idea of we got to miss barrels. Yes. Well, no, just hit some barrels. Yes. Because 70% of the time they get themselves out.
That's right.
And I think that's too where, and I'll say this from both sides of the thing, on hitting and from pitching, what the pitcher wants to do is to make the batter uncomfortable. Yes. And you're not uncomfortable when somebody's just juicing 95 right down the plate. I can time that up and I can hit it. Yeah. But to make me uncomfortable is to use all areas. Yeah. I hear coaches who just want to throw at the low part, right? Because we're just now trying to pick up. We're trying to pick up. Well, guys are just trying to have a downward plane, hit the bottom of. I can hit that too. Yeah. Because it's the same plane. You never changed my eye level. Yeah. I never had a curve ball, and then you threw me a high fastball, and I thought it was going to curve. Yeah. And it stayed up.
I totally agree. And what I've seen too that I used to never see back when we were playing, or hardly ever, is so I'm go to the game, my son's game yesterday. First pitch of the game, curveball. You're like, first pitch of the game? Like, you see more. I mean, back when we played, it was like I wanted to see how long I could go without throwing. I would see how many innings I could go with fastball changeup.
That's it.
And now it's like dudes are showing every pitch they have to the first batter
of the game. That's right.
That's bizarre to me.
That was the only difference when I got to South Carolina playing in the SEC was there was a slider any count. Yeah. And at that time, if you were in the ACC, now this is in 98, so you can check me on this, fact check me. But if we played an ACC team like Clemson, they'd come down and play us, or we'd go up there. We knew that they were going to throw fastballs away. Yeah. And so we could just sit on that we would hover over the plate because they were never going to bring it inside. Yes. And so we just hover the plate and we hit the opposite field. But if you're facing an SE team, one of the top SEC teams, you couldn't get comfortable in the box because they were going to use all quadrants. Yeah. They were going to use their slider, their fastball, curveball, changeup, whatever. I faced. He was drafted in '98. He was he drafted by the Braves. Pitcher for Florida, tall guy. He may have been like 6'8" or something. It'll come to me in a second. Anyway, I faced him at South Carolina, and I thought, I'm going to take this guy deep. I'm about to just launch one off of him because he threw like 94. Right. He threw me 3 straight changeups and struck me out. Yeah. And I was so fooled. Yeah. It felt like such an idiot. Yeah. So, but anyway, so, I mean, when you look at the game today, what would be some of your encouragement to coaches and to players as you look at the pitching and the hitting side of things?
More aggressiveness from the hitting side. We talked about this. Like these high school guys, I don't know if it's because they watch major league games or it's because they have a swing coach and they don't have that kind of variability with like when I got 0-2, I wasn't afraid to have that like butt out, just I'm going to dump one over the third baseman's head. Okay. So I don't know, but there's more. I've never seen these hitters take more pitches. Like get up there and try to get 3 swings. Yeah. Because you know what the batting average is on balls you don't swing at? 0. So if anything, I think kids, I'd rather, I hate to say this, but swing at some more bad pitches. I would never say that in our day, but because we were kind of, go look at Jeff Francourt, all the really great hitters, and you kind of remember, were always up there hunting taking early. Hacks. Yeah. Because, man, you get behind 0-2, big leagues, that is one thing that's the same. The batting average on 0-2 is as low as any, lower than any of them. Yeah. Yeah. So be more aggressive. Pitchers, it's tough because of the way the catchers are, but I would, if you can start having your catcher set up on the halves and the corners a little, I mean, that's still in high school will work.
Yes.
And if you can show an umpire that you can hit it consistently, I mean, you'll start getting that far off the plate.
Absolutely.
And learn the sequence. If you're a righty and you're facing a right, I'm telling you this is what I learned. It works every time. If you throw like a breaking ball and the guy swings and misses or fouls it off, the next pitch needs to be fastball away. It's going to look like it's 150 miles an hour, and it's either going to freeze him or he's going to swing and miss it. I mean, he's going to be late. Yeah. I've seen that. Look, I'm not saying 100, but I've seen that sequence work, but I'm amazed how many times the guys will. It feels like there's no, and I get they're not calling their own pitches a lot of the time, but I would tell coaches like, man, that breaking ball, fastball away, righty on righty is like an unbelievable sequence. I think the idea, I don't know if you were like me, because I know you had a really good changeup. Like I threw changeups to lefties all the time. Yeah. This whole idea that like, oh, you can't throw like same arms, like changeups. Like, where did that come from?
Yeah.
Anything, right. Let the dude foul it off, down the third baseline or whatever. So, but, and then just, I would like to see a little more professionalism come back to the game. Yeah. Just all this performance art. I mean, think about it. Back when we played, there were guys, we've replaced in what I call intensity. Like, so Turnip Seed, for example, 2010, when I was coaching Lassiter, state championship, that dude was out there with a purpose. He was a dog. But it wasn't like performance art. It was like purpose, and it was an intensity. Yeah. Yep. And we've kind of replaced that with this, I'm going to run off and, chest, but like it's performance art, double sellies and pimp and walks, like we talked about, like that stuff. Yeah. I don't know how we get rid of it, but I think you and I too. One thing that's changed is we were, at the end of the day, it was true. All I really wanted to do was win. Mm-hmm. If I went over 3 with 3 strikeouts and I had a chance to do something in the 7th inning to help my team win, and I was happy. Like all I cared about was winning. Yeah. I think that's different now. I think it's more what's my PG ranking and what's what's my exit velocity, and
right.
So I think travel ball's they've bastardized that to the point of.
I agree.
It really disgusts me. I could go on a whole other podcast about travel ball.
Well, I think you're going to have to come back because we're going to have to do another hour of this. And I think I already hear cameras, dying out on me. So, but we're going to have to because we've got a lot more to talk about. But I do want to say thank you for taking the time. We're just starting to scratch the surface. I think we've got so much more to talk about. But I will have to say, in 1995, when you were a senior, I was a sophomore, and we're there at Lassiter for that game. That was the first year that Harrison had ever played Lassiter. And I'm pitching for Harrison, you're pitching for Lassiter, and I remember watching you warm up, and I thought, what am I doing in this situation? Why am I here? Because I got Chad Suter behind the plate catching me. I got Everett, he's at shortstop. Corey Patterson's a freshman, and he's center field. I've got so many guys who went on to do so many great things in the game. I mean, Chad Suter hit so many bombs at Tulane, and he led Conference USA forever with all those home runs. Great guy. But I look across the field, and you're pitching, and you guys had a loaded team as well.
We did.
But now, that was in 95, and we're in 2026, 31 years later. Yeah. But God takes things in some funny ways and does things with them and brings guys back together. So I just want to say thanks for coming, doing this. I think it's going to be an encouragement and help for others, but it also kind of gives you some of the history of why we're at where we're at today with baseball in the Cobb County area.
Well, and it was a completely my honor to be here, and it's interesting to hear you say that because I never thought about it like back then that like you might be looking over there, because I was just like, oh man, because I knew you were a great pitcher, and I just looked at it as like I didn't know anybody was looking up to me. I was out there I was just playing a game. Chad Suter, we talk about when Chad Suter and I still talk to Chad. He was we played together, and Chad's just like my guy that I used to go have beers at his house.
Yeah.
And it's funny to like you kind of look back and you're like, man, like almost like don't put an appreciation on the kind of talent those guys had. So it was completely my honor. I admire you and what you're doing, and like I said, I'd love to come back because we talked about my faith journey is interesting too. I'm a man of strong faith these days, and that was not always the case. And I said I've watched your podcast, and I was excited to do this, and I can ramble on forever, but this was a great time. I really appreciate you having me on.
Well, I think this will be a huge encouragement to others. So thank you. And thank you for watching. We're praying for you. Please pray for us. Yes, we need multiple exposures to the gospel. If you'd like to support the podcast, take a look at the link in the description below. God bless.